Thank you, Monica, and let me warmly welcome as well the audience again joining our discussion today. I hope you will find it interesting, entertaining, and maybe inspiring as well. As Monica said, my name is Viktor Knezevics, and I'm honored to lead this conversation. And let me share some leading thoughts first before we start. So, diversity and inclusion is a very trending topic of recent discussion at various forums from various aspects. Now let's see, I think everybody is different. We all look, feel different. Sometimes some of these differences are more eye-catching than the others. I believe humans' instant reaction to new and different things is to approach them with interest, trying to understand them, gain new experiences and build those in. When they are children, a child is naturally not afraid of any harmless insect unless they hear their parents screaming, or the insect proves not to be that harmless at the end. We gain knowledge and also build biases based on our direct experiences. Burning can be painful, or we do that by relying on others' views, inputs, and opinions. First parents, then the family, lately, and lastly, probably the influencers nowadays. Finally, we do find ourselves in a world full of collective opinions, rules, frames created by certain so-called social standards and norms. Then knowing and relying on these gives us certainty, security, and conform, so we always know what to do instantly without burdening our minds. Everything which is new or different and for which we do not have a relevant answer becomes easily uncomfortable, and our attitude turns from that childish natural interest into resistance or denial. We tend to judge people more based on the differences we cannot easily manage, as they are out of our norms. We become biased and treat them without really knowing the person or what is going on in their minds. Inevitably, it also creates a reaction in those people, impacting their relation to our society. Study shows in more advanced societies and organizations realize, though, that the more diverse a group is, it creates a more open, accepting, inclusive environment with more engaged members driving a better social and business performance. Today, with our panelists, we are trying to look at how we are doing in Hungary in terms of corporate diversity and inclusion agenda with respect to these people, as we generally call them with disabilities, but let us refer them to special groups during our conversation. So please let me give a warm welcome to our panelists today, and I would like to introduce them in alphabetical order. So István Lenk, Operation Manager and Site Leader at Eaton BSc. Krisztina Patai, founder of Mommy's Works Hungary and Managing Director of Future Talents. Krisztina Pusztai, HR Manager, BSc MA at Eaton. And Mária Grócz, Head of HR, CEE&Russia at British Telecom Global Services. Thank you for all of them joining us discussion. So let's start, and as probably Monica promised or referred to, let's do it without any taboos. So István, let's start with you, setting the scene. The first question comes to you, a group of questions maybe. Do you think Hungarian companies make a real effort to integrate these special groups into their organization? And if so, what is their real motive? Is it only a centrally driven element of corporate branding? Or do leaders are really sensitized, sensitive, and committed to be inclusive at all levels? Or do they look just for some financial benefits only?
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. Yeah, that's thanks for the great initiative thoughts to Viktor. And yeah, from a business perspective, I&D today is really a key agenda for the companies, multinational companies working in the SSC sector. And what we do and what we need to do is something where we create an inclusive environment where the people see, feel that we are caring for them. And this is not l'art pour l'art, right? So we would like to get some benefit. Is doing the right thing is one element. The other element is how we approach and how we would like to create value at the end of the day. And in different sectors apply people with differences, and differences are a big category. And we have various types of differences we are handling every day. Some of those are visible, some of those are non-visible. And of course, there are some jobs on the market where a certain ability, even physical ability, is needed to do the job. And our aim is to create an environment where it helps these people and also those others who are part of in another group, but also part of this different type of group under diversity aspect, and then reduce the frustration on one hand from the people's side, so they feel better, then they will become better in the job what they are doing on a daily basis, and then it's a win-win situation, or we are moving towards that direction. So there is already a limitation if we are talking about disabilities. There is a limitation which job can do physically, or even any other disabilities. But this is just one aspect. We also need to handle different ones. So maternity leavers and people who are returning from maternity is part of this discussion today. Disability, yes, that's really the question what we started with. Also, people part of the LGBTQ community, it's a different group, but is something part of our life. And also people who are 40 plus, 50 plus, and changing their jobs, changing their careers, and how we make the reintegration to the work. And also people, one of the most recent one, having different religion, and people would like to practice the religion during the day. And this is what we also had to handle somehow and have a reflection to those. So many aspects we have, and I think that the shared service sector is better in handling this I&D aspect because of the openness, the support, and all in all, just looking at the differences and the variety of nationalities. At Eaton, we have 42 nationalities, over 30 languages, but it's not unique. Most of those sector players who we have at the table even today can talk something similar as well. But this is just an example of the differences. And what we believe it can help. It's not, I mean, the differences can help. Is not just bringing more perspectives to the table. That's good. Different nationalities, different knowledge, experiences, skills. Yes, will broader the picture. And they will give a more advanced answer to questions coming up. But at the same time, talking about disability and other differences, this is really about the integration. As I said, is not la polar. We go to the direction where we can create some benefit for the people, and of course, doing the right thing is great, and this is what we all do. But at the same time, end of the day, we would like to see financial benefits. So the more, as Viktor said, the more diverse the group is, the better performance we may expect at the end. So this is why we do that, and how we create the inclusive and diverse inclusivity in this diverse environment is how we support the different training programs and also the different sensitivity type of trainings for those leaders who need to handle this at the team level, at the broader level, and then it's different. Their experiences and their approach is different. So at Eaton, we have different types of sensitivity training, which help them understand LGBTQ community approach, disability types of things, and also about understanding people coming back from maternity. So all these things is something we have to learn, because we would like to give a standard answer for those. And this is not only for the leaders, but also for the employee side important, because the acceptance of this diverse, anyone who's coming from this group need to be there, and they need to accept. On the other hand, financially, that was another question, another aspect. Is it something we do it for a financial perspective? Well, yes or no, because there are people who take personal tax incentives, family tax incentives on their own, and the company, this is visible for us. On another hand, where there is a corporate tax allowance, what is given, and it's a law defined incentive by the government, which relates to people living with disabilities, and if these companies hire them, the companies can get it. Well, the truth is, and the reality is, that we cannot get that, because just looking at the both sides, we are hiring people with disabilities, and these people also should prove and sign that yes, we are hiring them as disabled people, and this is the validation we need to give to the government or authorities to get this incentive, tax incentive. But on another side, these people were always working for being equal, to be treated equal. So they will never sign this document we are providing to the government. Yes, we are having people living with disabilities. So this is vicious circle, and we cannot solve it at the same at this point. But the reality is we continue hiring people with disabilities. We have a program for that, and we will hear a bit more details later today how it is. But this is important for us, important to continue this journey, even though this financial impact is not there yet. And on another hand, at the end, I would like to just say that we do this, we share and gain best practices. We use HOA for that. We use other forums for that. And also, all this is not just part of our employer branding strategy. It needs to be there, because people on the market, and talking about talent attraction and retention, it is also an expectation people to have this kind of environment, because they see that this is a company which is diverse enough. I would like to join, and this is the way to go. So mainly that's my answer for those questions. Can continue.
Thank you, István, for your very comprehensive answers. And as we said at the beginning, we primarily want to talk about people with special qualities, let's call it like that. Some of them are genetic, inborn, some acquired later, some treated as well by legislation, disabilities, as you mentioned, István, or some are visible and some are not that obvious at the same time and got hidden. But there's also a special group of employees. You mentioned those, and they have no so-called disabilities, yet they may face very similar challenges on the labor market. From an employee and employer perspective, how much of the status of women returning from maternity leave is similar or different from other special groups? And are they employees with different qualities or needs, and how much companies support or treat them? I'm going to ask Krisztina Patai, founder of Mommy's Work Hungary, for this question. But before that, we're going to launch a quick poll to the audience just to see if you're still awake and you're still active. And I'm going to ask my help. Yeah. Okay. So the poll appeared on your screen. How many part-time jobs do you have for external applicants? Please just submit your questions. So let's see if we have the answers already. Great. So 32% said that they don't have part-time jobs, and another 30% said they have a very few, so 0 to 5, and more than 10 is only 5%. So based on that, I'm coming back to Kristi. How these employees are treated on the market? What do you see?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Very good results, better than what I expected. So that is a sign that employers are developing and changing. So before I would start to answer to your question, Viktor, I would like to introduce shortly Mommy Works Hungary, which is basically a community and a job portal where we promote part-time job opportunities in Hungary for women who are planning to return from maternity. We have passed more than 3 years, so the group was created in 2017, and more than 20,000 women are waiting for job opportunities every day. So 23,000 women are among the members, and they are really, really active. So they are waiting and waiting for the job opportunities every day. And reflecting to your question, I would say that they are definitely a special group on the labor market, but not from skills and abilities point of view. They are the same employees as they were before, even more skillful raising kids, so they gain some extra skills, but they are also different, we can state that, because they are no longer able to work in 8 hours per day or commute 2 hours to work every day. Or they would be able to work 8 hours per day, but not in the classical frame from 9 to 5. So their special need is the flexibility from the employers. And flexibility means that they expect flexible working hours and flexible work frames. So what they need is part-time opportunity and home office possibility. Part-time opportunity means 6 hours a day job or 7 hours a day job. So they don't need 4 hours job. 6 and 7 would do for most of them, with a combination of home office. So at least 2 or 3 days home office per week. Those jobs are the most popular, where the job can be done totally 100% from home office, because then they can plan their time better and they can be more efficient. And the reason behind that is that when in Hungary, when families are created and they start to raise kids, then they move to the suburb region or more far from the workplace, and commuting to the work can take 2 or 3 hours a day. So they lose 2 and 3 hours every day just to get to the job. So usually what we have to calculate is that women have to leave the job at 4 o'clock in order to reach the kindergarten. So they don't need a bad look on them leaving the job early. So that's why they need the flexibility that at 4 they can leave and it's fine for everyone. What they do not need is baby rooms, kindergarten at the workplace. So they solve these needs for them, because they prefer kindergarten close to their living place, close to their home. So they don't want to bring the kids to the office. In exchange for that, if you provide part-time jobs for them and as much home office as possible, you will get a very loyal employee. So let's call this population working moms. So working moms are very loyal in general. So if you trust them and you give them the opportunity to work in part-time, they will be really grateful and they will do their best at the job. And we can state also that their salary expectation is more favorable than the others on the labor market who are changing jobs in every 2 years. So you will earn a really loyal employee who will be grateful and who will stay with you. And let's be honest, they will not work forever in part-time. So when the kids grow up, then they can switch and they can work in full-time jobs. So the biggest difficulty for women who are planning to return to work after maternity is to find a part-time job as an external job seeker on the labor market. So in Hungary, 5% of the jobs are part-time. And in addition, most of these part-time jobs are open for trainees. So student certification is needed. So in reality, this 5% is 2 or 3%. And I like the positive psychology. So there are good news that I have seen many good developments in the past 2-3 years, especially before the pandemic. We had a hot labor market situation. Companies were struggling to find new employees, and many employees and many shared service players became much more flexible towards the internal employees. So when women wanted to return back from maternity, then they provided all the flexibility, part-time job, home office and everything. So it is really, really good, but there is still a huge space for development. And I think that the pandemic influenced also positively this topic and the situation of working women, because digitalization and home office became a must, and it proved that the job can be done well from home as well. So I believe that there will be still many flexibility on the employer side, but mentality change is needed, and we need also good examples to see that how can companies solve these questions, and maybe this topic will be more catchy, more influential, and everyone will open jobs for external applicants as well.
Thanks, Krisztina. And now maybe let's see that from an employer perspective. I'm going to call the other Krista as well. How do you see that from an employer perspective? Because Krista gave a very good picture from the mommy's perspective and from the perspective of the mothers who wants to return to the work. How do you treat those who left for maternity from Eaton, and are you searching for other candidates as well, returning from maternity leaves?
Yeah, thank you, Viktor, for calling me. And let me start with an honest declaration, what I voted for, because we said without taboo. So because the question was how many external job postings we have for part-time positions, and I admit I put 0 there. But I will also give some good news, as Kristi said, positive psychology. So at Eaton BSc, we absolutely think that this segment of employees, mothers, maternity leavers, are very important for us. Also, at the same time, we experienced that number of colleagues leaving for parental leave show a growing trend. Actually, Eaton BSc is only in its 5th year of existence, and we have a very young population, average age around 32 years. It's not really fresh news for most of the shared services. We know this is typical in our world. But what I experienced here, while 3 years ago we had 5 colleagues on maternity leave, now we have 10 times more, 50 colleagues, more than 50 colleagues who are on parental leave. Actually, we don't call it maternity. It's not only for mothers, but we also provide this opportunity, obviously, for fathers, and we have 1-2 fathers on parental leave. So this trend is increasing, and I think it's also crucial to add that how we handle this market segment, if it's a good wording for that, I would differentiate 2 groups. And first is where our colleagues who would like to come back from maternity leave, we do our best. We already have a maternity coordinator person within HR. We created a parental leave process, policies to ensure everyone is handled the same way. As I mentioned, also fathers go on leave, on parental leave. So in this case, when we have parental leavers, it's not a question that colleagues can return, and even they can return based on also law, they can return in part-time solutions. So this is one area where multinational companies can do a lot, that at least they accept and welcome back their colleagues who left for parental leave. And actually, we also created a culture measurement, and we are measuring how many mothers, fathers really return to us. And until now, everybody wanted to return, but it's still a low number of returners at the moment. And the other segment, just very quickly, the new colleagues who are in the recruitment process and coming for external positions. I also already admitted that we don't have a concrete part-time position open, but what we can say that we do not differentiate, we do not ask or differentiate if you are a mother or father of small young children. Mothers are absolutely welcome, and no part-time though, but we have flexible options. Obviously, during COVID, we have 100% home office, but before that, the BAU situation was 2 days a week being able to work from home, and we can provide flexible timing. As Kristi, you mentioned, yes, some mothers want to come at 7 because they need to leave at 4, because we know that the crash and kindergartens close maximum at 5 o'clock. So this is what we can provide, and this is how we try to help this market segment.
Thank you, Krisztina. Probably you answered one of the questions that Monica raised and as well in the chat, whether the pandemic created new norms, more flexible norms, helped you as well to reintegrate them into the work, or accepting others returning from work. So thank you very much. Another interesting area, probably, that in order to support the integration of these special groups, and not talking about the maternity returners, but the others as well, and make sure that we set up them for success and make them feel supported. Companies needs to do some effort to adjust the physical environment. They apply technology. They need to sensitize their colleagues and equip them and their leaders with some new skills. And I'm going to turn to Mária from BT. Where do you think the Hungarian companies do better, and where they would need to have some more focus? And can you share maybe some of the successes or even failures that we can learn from your experiences at BT?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I can talk about the BT practices, because BT is a large company, and even in Hungary we have close to 2,500 people. So our policies and processes support the hiring and development, progression and retention of these talents. Of course, for the targeted development, for the underrepresented groups. I would say underrepresented groups. We have several communities. Yes, we put more focus on the sensitized topics and trainings in our portfolio, communication and events. We have many kinds of communities because of this. Yes, we have a group for tech women, Christian network, LGBT, and many other networks who need training and special treatment. And as the company has very young, we have very young people, average age is 31. So we have many ladies who are on maternity. It's always between 100, 150. And yes, we of course treat them specially, so we can offer them a part-time job and home working as well. On top of that, what is important, and we started to work with this special group, provide a training, a special training, sensitizer training for their managers, because we have many people managers who are outside of the country. They are not aware of the Hungarian labor law, what they can do. And we wanted to inform them not only by the labor law, but also kind of teaching them how to treat with the ladies. Exactly what Krista mentioned, that yes, they are working part-time. If they are working in the office, they need to leave the office at 4 o'clock. So they must be very flexible, and they need to be patient with them. Some of them even working not part-time, but full-time, but they are working in the morning and maybe late in the evening after they put the child into the bed. So that's we started with that. But it's not this changed ability people, yeah. We don't want to call them disability, maybe changed ability people. For example, we have colleagues who are blind, so we offer the special asset for them to work because they need that. Other sensitization training, it was for the LGBT group because we have this community as well. And not only from labor law point of view, but also for HR as well, how to deal them, what we can do just to avoid even the positive discrimination, everything. What else we are offering? And of course, we have so many people from abroad, they don't speak Hungarian. There is a language for the Hungarian language course for them. And there are many activities, what we can have for the people who are not, I would say they belong to the we would say diverse group. It's not, don't talk about ethnic, this kind of things, but people who are, for example, carrying responsibilities, not only children, but maybe the old people as well. They are in a special group and they need to be treated carefully, and they need more support. So that's what we offer. There are many kind of activities. What is really for this group? Even if we have just to going back to the maternity, and I can confess that we do not have a part-time job offered either, like Eaton. Because we take back the ladies from maternity leave, and due to the, I think it's a headcount issue, so I can say that it's a headcount issue. The managers prefer to have a full-time job. Many ladies who return from maternity, they start with a part-time job, but they go and change to the 8 hours work. Exactly the way what I mentioned. So it's not from 8 to 4 or 9 to 5, something like that, but something in the morning, then they have a break afternoon and they can continue. I think it works very well because these ladies are very much committed and engaged to the company. So we definitely focus on this group. And even if we have a nursery very close to the BT building, it's not within the building, but very close to the BT building, they don't use too much, unfortunately, because they prefer to take the children to the nursery, what is close to their home location. Maybe someone else can pick up from the family. So I think that would be probably the negative, because when we implemented this nursery, we expected many more applicants.
Thanks, Mária. You talked a lot about training and sensitizing your staff. There's a question as well in the chat box that now that most of the companies, due to the financial situation created by the pandemic, reduced probably their training budget. How you can resolve that conflict with a reduced training budget and probably an increased need of sensitizing?
Maybe we are the lucky one. We did not reduce the training budget, and especially we moved online the training, so we could provide even more trainings than before.
Okay, maybe
because it's online. Everything is online now.
You also referred to headcount, and I'm going to invite the other panelists as well to comment. Maybe you said it's a headcount issue. Why is that? We heard from Krisztina that these employees, well, actually the women returning from maternity may have a lower salary expectations. People with special abilities, as you referred to, may also have different needs, because of course it's very hard to find a good job in the Hungarian labor market. So how does it come together? And I'm asking the other panelists as well to feel free to comment. Yeah. So we on one side we have a headcount / budget requirement. On the other hand, we have available skilled resources as well with the lower financial needs or demands. Who would like to start?
Maybe I can. I'm happy to.
Please, Krisztina.
Add on this topic. The same headcount challenge is with us, so we do not calculate employees in an FTE calculation, but we also calculate headcount, and I think that's the situation with most of the companies. And when we talked about the topics in advance with Kriszti, there was a kind of dispute, obviously healthy dispute, how or why companies plan like that. And it's a good question also for everyone here. Maybe on chat we can have some comments on that. That's an interesting situation. Also in our case, when maternity leavers come back, we can provide part-time, but after that they go back to 8 hours, and still business leaders don't get the message that 2 part-times can make 1 full-time. It's a financial calculation also on our side. And if you don't mind, Viktor, I wanted to add a comment which I liked very much in Mária's speech or topic. You mentioned, Mária, the remote managers. It's a very interesting aspect. And this is again a very special group to sensitize them, because also in our case we have remote managers who anyway sit away from, not in Budapest office, and some managers handle flexibility in a very positive way. Some remote managers want their people to sit in the office though they are away, because they are remotely managing them. So this is an interesting situation, and I think the sensitivity and education trainings can help a lot on that area.
Thank you, Krisztina. István, do you want to add?
Yes, just a quick one to this headcount question. Krista just clarified really well. The only thing I would add, the background. So why is it like that? So why is it that we are calculating with headcounts and not FTEs? Why don't we use activity-based costing for managing and valuing the work and also creating our cost and calculate our cost based on that. But so the background, and now a little bit of Eaton side is a hybrid model. And many of us live through this hybrid model. We are really strong in that. I mean, we are strongly linked to the business side, manufacturing side with DCs and other manufacturing areas, even in the region, but that's valid globally for the company. And whenever it was created, the headcount, and specifically for those areas where physical colleagues were and are hired in a plant or in an area where they cannot just create a part-time job due to the different shifts, due to the different ways of working in a plant area. It's even more difficult. So whenever it started, due to the hybrid model, the same expectations were raised and actually expected from the support functional areas, so the BSCs as well. So for us, that's the same. That's the reason why this is a new thing. What people and even senior leaders have to understand well enough to make these changes, because then it will differ what we apply in a manufacturing area, what we can apply in a manufacturing area, and what we can apply in an SSC back office type of area. So that's actually the background for us.
Thank you, István. It's always probably a conflict where the GBS is mainly working from an office environment, supporting company which is largely not working in the office. We talked about that the companies are trying to help to support the specialists with investment in facilities, technology, sensitizing programs, even advertising a kind of positive discrimination to those groups. And thanks, Noemi, for the question. It's just in the right conversation. So I'm going back to Krista. What do you think is the acceptance of such positive discrimination by the organization in general? And is there a possibility of a counter impact on a company morale and on the real and natural acceptance of these colleagues? And finally, if you allow me one more question, how much the emphasis and support makes the performance management difficult to the line managers, and equally how much we need to sensitize our special employees to support their integration back to the company?
And Viktor, before we go into my opinion,
Thank you.
I would like to ask for some audience help here with the voting.
Thank you. So if we can have the poll.
Mm-hmm. So maybe I help here and read aloud. So companies support employee groups with special needs in many ways, which might bring positive discrimination. So what do you think about this or such positive discrimination? Is it fine, useful, and necessary, or positive discrimination can be misleading and unfair? And I will wait for the result because I don't want to share what I voted for before we see that.
Let's give a few more seconds to the audience. So the answers in 2/3 said that the positive discrimination can be misleading, and 1/3, roughly 1/3 or 40%, being more precise, maybe 38%, as positive discrimination is useful and necessary.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, thank you very much for voting, and we will come back to, I think Noemi asked the question also about some kind of positive discrimination on parents working at the workplace. And I will touch also that. No, I can admit that I'm convinced that the area of hiring and employing special groups of workforce needs special efforts from the companies. This is the method that works based on our experiences, and unfortunately what we saw that regular normal solutions do not prove well or do not always prove well, so that little or sometimes not that little extra push is definitely needed. So yes, positive discrimination, in my opinion, is needed to kick off some special initiatives in the disability area. But actually it's not only about disability areas. Also, as many of us mentioned already, in case of supporting parents, in case of supporting returning mothers, colleagues with different religions. So we have family room, we have family days, international village events for our many international colleagues, multi-phase prayer room. So we try to have these solutions, which you can also see from a certain perspective, like parents leaving at 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, as a positive discrimination. But now let me share and let me concentrate on the example from the area of the disability support. At the Eaton BSc, we used extraordinary approach in many ways. We used extra approach in the recruitment process and extra approach in onboarding the newly hired colleagues who have some disabilities. So first of all, recognizing this need for the special approach and some positive discrimination was a crucial first step after so many tries in the normal way. As I mentioned, extra approach in the recruitment process was needed, and that means also many aspects. The normal way of advertising our openings, you know, with the message, we are equal opportunity employer, it just didn't work out. So after a while, after some unsuccessful tries in this regular way, we knew that we needed a revolutionary way of sourcing. So what we did was the following. We contacted some special agencies and foundations who were engaged or who are engaged in the diversity recruitment. This normal way of opening a job and recruiting for a certain job or for a certain job description just didn't work out. So in the BSc culture, we know that we need people with great language, great communication skills. So that was the basic what we knew. But otherwise, we decided that we will be really flexible. We do not seek for those skills or exactly for those skills which were written in those job descriptions, but we would like to search for the skills that the newly hired colleagues were good at. They could bring it to our company. So we looked for the job where those skills were needed. We then called this way of recruiting a reverse recruitment process, which is obviously not applicable for all the 40, 50 open positions what we regularly have in a multinational company in a shared service center, but at least we did a kickoff for that. Simply said, it means that we looked for the job opportunity internally after we had already a colleague hired, and after we learned about that colleague, what they are the best or what they are good at, what their key strengths are. So then after hiring and after a few months of general training, onboarding to a multinational environment, to an open air office, because in some movement impairments, movement disabilities, or for blind people, that's also very important that they find their place. They have a special onboarding or body support. So this was the recruitment approach, the reversed one. And then, as I mentioned, also an extra approach was needed in the onboarding of the newly hired special colleagues. So it meant what I already mentioned, that we had a kind of incubator area for those colleagues. They didn't just start in their future job, but they started in an incubator area. We had that BSc management that time created dedicated first of all a budget, obviously, and created a project team for 3-4 people, and the aim was to hire just exactly colleagues with disabilities. A project manager was dedicated to that team. Actually, she is the idea owner and manager of this special group and has the special care for that team. And the incubator program worked the way that after this onboarding, after these few months incubator area, and after learning the organization and the culture in a timely manner, really, then employee and employer had the time to find the special matching job. And also, actually, on the other hand, these newly hired disabled colleagues could decide whether this company culture and the multinational environment fits for them or not. And just very quickly, some successes and failures, because we have to admit that it's not only success. But let me start first of all with the positive stuff, with successes, because those were in a bigger portion, fortunately. In some cases, at the end of this incubator, so-called incubator period, project employees had more than one choice to choose from, because by that time, also hiring managers could learn more about that person. Also, for example, we gained very motivated colleagues who were very grateful for this opportunity what we gave them, and they really want to pay back as much as possible. We have colleagues in customer care area with quite serious mobility impairment, but with a very proficient and sophisticated English, which is admired even by our UK and US colleagues. In administration area, we could place a lady who just lost her voice after having 2 children. There are some very interesting lies behind this program. Also in HR area, we have a very kind colleague who was born blind, and now she is providing language classes in German, in Dutch, in English, and she is the one who holds the sensitivity training to the colleagues. So it's really authentic when they see our colleague holding this training. So some success areas and examples, but we also met some difficulties. We had to face some difficulties. For example, when we met lower performing colleagues, and we really had doubts how to provide development feedback. And this was the time when we went for some advice to those foundations who actually provided these candidates to us, and they helped. And actually the secret behind is what they told us, that, you know, these people are not special anymore when they are employees of your organization. So when you do this performance discussion, just be same as you are with the non-disabled colleagues. But honestly, this is easy to say, but it was not that easy to do that in practice.
That was a question I wanted to come back. So thanks, Krisztina. That how do you see that the managers, line managers, are equipped or sufficiently equipped to have the right performance conversation if needed? But maybe I can ask as well, Mária, what is your experience on this? And then later on, I'm going to go back to Krisztina as well, just to give a heads up that what was your feedback from the market as well about maternity returners coming back to work, whether they feel they treated in the same or different way?
Yeah, I would argue a little bit about the positive discrimination, because I think it's question of the understanding, or question of the, because when I mentioned that these people need, and again, it's a changed ability, I would not say disabled people, changed ability. They need a special treatment, they need a special development, or maybe assets. For me, it's not a positive discrimination. For me, it is just to provide them the minimum they can work at the same level as any other people. So if I say it's not a positive discrimination, but they need more, of course, but they will get to the same level of working environment with that help. So I mean, it's treating with the same with people. The last, I don't know how many years, we tried to hire changed ability people with a special advertisement. We are working with the companies, and it's quite difficult to find, even if we are headhunting them, because they do not apply. So when they got to the company, they stay very long, and my experience is they do even more than other people without any how can I say any other people who has no issue with their movings or not blind or something like that. I did not experience in the past 10 years that we had to treat people, you know, personal development, something like that, because that's maybe it's just an exceptional case. I don't know, but when they got to the company where they feel well and they can have the colleagues who are helping them and they find an environment that is comfortable for them, they do even more than we expect from them. So other way, I mean, what if there is any case, maybe a discussion and try to find another job for the person. But yes, we would help them. But my experience is vice versa.
And let me just quickly add to that I think obviously when we introduce such programs, we don't think it's positive discrimination, but from other employees' eyes, it might be. I think also when we had the question from Noemi on parents treated differently. So for average people who are not parents at the moment or not disabled or not involved in any special groups, that might seem that, oh, why can't she come at 7 and leave at 4? So that might be seen as positive discrimination. And yes, I agree, we need to do the best and everything we can to avoid that they think it's positive discrimination. That's where the education and sensitivity trainings come in. And we had some examples, and we had one bad example which I mentioned because I think it can unfortunately happen. Also at my former workplaces, I experienced when there was a quite serious mobility impairment and it got worse and worse, and that person needed operation. That person sometimes just slept, just fell asleep on the table, you know, at the desk in the workplace. So there are not always just positive examples which we need to prepare for, but I also agree that the people can be extremely grateful, extremely well performing, much better than other people who think the biggest problem is that, I don't know, my food hasn't arrived in time. But yeah, sometimes there are unfortunately some difficult experiences.
Thank you. And you said, Krisztina, that they can even not perform and they will do their best. But can it happen? And I'm going to ask István based on our previous discussion as well, out of this chat, that can it be the other way around, and the employee knows is in a special group, he or she is in a special group, and actually abusing the situation? And how do you treat that if it happens at all? And how could you treat that in a company?
Yeah, so actually this is also part of this story, and just as Krista mentioned, as long as we apply similar rules and we provide the same things for the employees, so talking about flexibility, this is for everybody. Part-time job, whenever and how we agree, it's part of our employee benefit program, so they can take it, and it's okay for everybody, as long as we are hiring people with disabilities and they do anything and everything to make the opportunity a success. People see that and people recognize that, and also provide the necessary support. at the same time, of course, sensitivity trainings should go on, and we need to teach people, and they need to learn how to handle people living with disabilities. The question comes when a person just misuses this opportunity and uses the disability, the known disability, as a card, a free card. I can go in everywhere just because I can be treated differently just because I'm disabled. And he or she is even saying that. This is the part where it turns, the full story turns into positive discrimination, because what will happen if you as an employer would like to treat everybody equally, which is the way, we definitely need to feedback this performance and this behavior to the colleague, even with disability or without disability, the same way. And actually, this is what happened. But with a person with disabilities, is not so easy. It's not so like a standard day of practice giving feedback to someone is an employee, because the person is still going through the integration program, is still going through a learning curve. The only difference is that if the will is not there from the person's side, it doesn't make sense to continue, because then the perception becomes reality, and this is visible that this, if we continue that way, it will become, and definitely will be, a positive discrimination. So what happens in this case, the strong feedback completely the same way is hard, but this is the way how we have to handle that. And if the change is not coming, and even development plans and other things helps there, but if the change is not coming, this is not the best fit, and not good for even for the person, because he or she is feeling unwell. At the same time, it's not good for the team or the area where the person is working, because of this frustration of those employees who have to interact with the person every day, while they do not know how much they may expect just because of the low performance. So this is what we need to handle completely the same way, and then this is what people expect. And then also it gives is not degrading the state of the people living with disabilities, because this is what the feedback was from other people living with disabilities, that people who really work hard to make this integration happen and make their life as a success, and be part of a team as everyone else, and it happens many times as a success. And if and such occasions and such examples on the negative side also have a negative overall feedback on the whole story. So this is what we definitely need to avoid and handle.
Okay, then related to that, István, a question came to you as well through the chat as well, that realistically, despite the trainings related to awareness and diversity, what is the general openness of the employees within your organization? What's your feel?
Yeah, so we have anyway, the company itself is an open environment. So Eaton globally is having values which, when this BSc was established a couple of years ago, we just took over, and this is really about accepting differences in and also embedding these differences to the culture, is to be part of our DNA. And just because different people having different understanding and experiences about the same, accepting and about inclusive, how to be inclusive, that's something what we need to handle artificially somehow to make it homogeneous as much as possible. And this is where the sensitivity trainings can have. This is what Krista mentioned, and even good that the person who is having a disability is holding the training. So this is really the truth and talking about reality, own examples. So this is really impactful. And also at the same time, leaders have programs which they go through understanding and dealing with disabilities, and not only disabilities, but also, as I said, the many other areas, the the LGBTQ, the people who really part of a different community, religions, and other things, many others, and this is, at least if they have a standard understanding of that, they can have an approach, and of course at the same time they can come to us and we help. That's the way how we work, because we definitely need a homogeneous organization where these differences are just part of our life as normal and no extra. It's just really part of our day-to-day life, and this is where we need to help, mainly first of all to the leaders to be able to lead well, and then of course it goes through to all employees.
Thank you. There was a question from Borbal in the chat that we need employees to speak foreign languages, but the experience is that those applicants are hard to find on the market with sufficient language knowledge, and asking the team that what your experiences are. But equally, I would like to extend that question. We talk about that we need skill. We want to reach out to those employees, potential employees, and those potential employees want to find a job, but they don't find each other. So there's something about the recruitment strategy and channels, and Krista has probably talked about it as well partially. I'm going to ask the other panelists as well, and maybe if Kristi, you feel to answer the question as well, that do you see that mothers returning from maternity, maybe not willing to go back to the same companies, can they identify the jobs they need, or can they identify the companies they need from the advertisements that we put out there?
So the question is to me?
Yes, please, sorry.
Okay. Can you repeat it in a shorter version?
No problem. So how do you see that mothers who wants to return to the from maternity, they don't want to return maybe necessarily to their original company, or they don't have a chance, can they easily identify jobs on the market which fits to their needs?
Not easily. It's a hard thing for them, but there is no general situation on the market, because if someone is really in a need for a job, then that person will find and will be also flexible. But if they have many expectations, then it's hard to find a job on the market. As I said, 5% of the jobs are part-time. So I checked the main job search portals, and you cannot find more than 20 open positions in part-time, and the total job openings are more than 10,000. So on the job portal, so it's the chance is really small. But the main reason that they don't want to return back to their old employees is that they moved very far from the employee, or the employee is not showing any flexibility towards them in terms of working hours or home office or other things.
Thank you, Krista.
Viktor, can I ask something from Kristi on this topic? Because Kristi, when you talked about the mothers returning, you mentioned the lower salary they ask for, and it's still on my mind, because what I think we can confirm in a multinational company in a shared service area, or in Hungary, hopefully, that there is no really gender pay gap. And I don't think we should create that. And we don't give a lower salary if someone comes as a mother, or when they ask even for a lower salary, we give the normal salary, what is provided in that salary. So maybe it's an advice to those mothers, shouldn't ask less.
Yes, I also advocate this, that they don't have to ask less, but you know, establishing a family causes in many cases in the life of women a step back from a certain level. So women give birth between 30 and 40 and they reach a certain seniority level and they are willing to go one level back in order to avoid extra stress or extra push or extra working hours. It's not general, but in most of the cases, I see that they are willing to find a less stressful job, less responsibility, and that's why they ask, in some cases, less salary because they think that it will make them attractive. But we all know that it's not the main motivation for an employer to hire someone.
I see. Thank you.
Can confirm actually we have the same practice, but I would not say less salary because the job is a lower level. So we pay in line with the job. If I may add one more question, yes, it's difficult to find foreign languages speaking people who are not the mothers with children, but mainly people who have the changed ability. Yes. Difficult because they don't speak languages, and at least what is required at BT, it's English, even if it's a mid-level, but at least something, because everything is in English, all processes, policies, so people cannot survive without language speaking.
Thank you. And maybe just a very last question, and that question is actually was addressed to Kristi, but I'm going to address to the panelists, to all of them. In regards to the first poll result, over 60% of the answers proved the fact that the acceptance of part-time jobs applicants is mainly closer to 0 than 5%. Yeah. So what we could do as this community is to change the situation. How we could encourage companies and others to make sure, and ourselves as well, to create jobs which are going to fit for those who need part-time jobs. And those could be mothers returning from maternity, but equally people with disabilities who may not be able to work 8 hours per day effectively. So let's make a round table, and if you allow me to decide just in the reverse order how you appear on my screen. So I'm gonna first go to Krisztina Pusztai as to have an answer, a one-sentence answer maybe.
Yeah, so what we can do is that at least provide the opportunity of part-time return for our maternity leavers. And then comes the next step after headcount challenge solution.
Thank you. Mária, what do you think?
It's not an easy one, because I mentioned this headcount issue that when I joined BT 13 years ago, it was mentioned that, okay, we don't go for TLR, but TLC. So I mean, not for the headcount, but the cost, and it would solve all kind of problems, but it's not happened the last 13 years, unfortunately. So it's still, we are not talking about the cost, but number of heads. I can see some opportunity for shared job sharing. That would solve part of the problem, and I don't know if it will be easy one or not, but as there are lots of transformation, it's ongoing at BT, I think we can go to that direction, but that, no promise, but trying to do that job sharing, it would solve this problem.
Thank you, Mária. István.
So So in the future, I believe the flexibility is more and more hot topic and expectations from the employees or future employees. And as long as we in the shared service environment can go to the direction we create jobs which are part-time and is on the top of those who are just coming back from maternity leave, but also okay for other people as well, not only for maternity or paternity or parental leavers, but anyone who would like to use the flexibility itself. So I believe that even the COVID helped a lot with this flexibility and boosting this direction in the market. And as we go further, it will become more and more a need, and we have to handle more and more with this topic. And if this comes, then it will open more doors for the part-time jobs, even for parental leavers or who are returning, and also existing employees who would like to just change and need more flexibility.
Thank you, István. And last but not least, Kriszti, your final comments.
My final comment is that mentality change is needed, and employers have to think differently about part-time jobs. So a 6 or a 7-hour job can be equal to an 8-hour job, and this small flexibility is enough in many cases, and open jobs for external applicants as well, because in the future, not just the women will be motivated by this, but the younger generations have different expectations towards employers, and work-life balance is a high priority of their life. So I think that it will be attractive for other groups on the labor market as well in the future.
Thank you, Kriszti. Very useful comments. And with that, I would like to thank all the panelists and all the participants. But before we close, I just would like to hand over for the closing comments to Monica.
Yes, thank you very much. At least to me personally, and I hope I did not offend the audience with raising many questions just popping out of my brain, because I think as an ex-employer as well, I on the one side, I feel the pain of the employers, but I think it's a very interesting topic. And I truly hope that with the new norms we are working at the moment, and you know, this is the world we are engaging now. I hope that more and more employers will be open to think over the strategy of how they would like to recruit, who they would like to recruit, and how they would like to engage the workforce available. And it really starts with the fact of complete remote work. And when we talk about employees with changed abilities, for them working in their home environment, and for us as employers only worrying about whether they have everything available for them to fulfill their work, may be much easier than to have them at work office environment. So I think there are many topics which could be still explored. It could be a long, extended discussions. But with saying that, I would like to thank our audience for being with us. I hope they enjoyed the discussions. I hope that there are many takeaways which they can utilize in their practice, in the leadership practice, that there are takeaways which they can which can encourage them to implement some changes within their organization. And I hope to see you all in our next panels. Next one is actually on 11th of March, particularly related to leaders' well-being, also a very sensitive topic, and I promise we will talk without taboos again. So thank you very much, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.